Guys, in this video I'm going to be adjusting the gear selector mechanism in my 1987 Ferrari Mondial 3.2. Basically the car won't go into reverse, and it occasionally doesn't go into first gear either. Now you would think that if I can't even remove the car from the garage that we're looking at an incredibly expensive repair, maybe, as I feared, maybe rebuilding the gearbox, removing the engine, or even if it's a matter of adjustment, paying someone a king's ransom to have that done. Turns out, however, you can do this as I will do it here in my garage. It's a fairly simple and straightforward process. You can do it for the price of a new gasket and a gallon of gear oil. So let me show you exactly what's the problem. Okay, I'm going to try going into reverse. First, reverse, release the brake, release the clutch. Foot is off the clutch, so the car isn't in reverse. Even though it's in reverse, it's in neutral. Go back, go into first, same thing. It's into first, it's in neutral. And there are 16 10mm screws and washers, and I've removed almost all of them. But what I found is that this is actually very hard to remove. They used a lot of sealant along the lines of the gasket to prevent leaks, and it's actually sticking there quite a bit, and it's very tricky to get off. And one of the things I found here is that there's kind of a lip here. If you can see on my board there, this plate's a little bit, just a fraction of an inch. And what I do is I hit the hammer. I use the crossbeam here as kind of a fulcrum and whack this, and I managed to get some space in here, and you can see some of the oil leaking around that stud. That shows that I made at least a little bit of progress, but still it's going to be a while. I can get a knife blade in there that very carefully I'm going to try to separate the seal. Okay guys, I'm making slow progress around the perimeter of this. I've got to manage to get a putty knife in there. The gap here, let me see. The gap sort of there will fall away. Is free, but the remaining part is still sort of stuck in place. I've left two of these bolts still on, although loosened, and that's so that the whole pan doesn't just drop all at once, and then I might lose all the little balls and springs. So I have that loosened enough that it can drop on the stud, but not enough to come off. So I'll keep on going on. Hopefully make some progress. Trying very hard not to damage anything. Okay, guys, I wanted to give you a little glimpse into what I'm talking about with these springs. Right under here, I wonder if you can. There's a spring there, and a spacer there. And on top of them, what you won't be able to see is a ball bearing. So I'm going to try to get the camera in right where I pointed, and you can kind of see these things a little bit. You can see the spacer there. And there you see these, there's a spring, there's a space. Okay guys, it's come off, and this is what you want to see if you ever, but these are the things you want. You have a spacer here, and you have 3 springs, spacer, 1, 2, 3 springs, and most importantly, ball bearings, 1, 2, 3, and you want all of those. Very, very important. All the, so they call the detent screws. Okay guys, I fashioned out of some pieces of wood I had lying around the equivalent of the indentations on the drip pan that will accommodate the detent springs. And the idea is to attach this under the car, and so the shift mechanism will function as it would with the plate, but without the plate, so I can adjust the linkage. And so as you see, this had to be narrow enough that it will well, actually be from under the car, to take be short enough that there'll be enough length from the stud so that I can put a nut on there. So I fashioned this out of an old paint stirrer. But then this hole has to be deep enough, which it goes all the way. It's got that much depth to it, and therefore I had to glue on a thicker piece of wood in order to accommodate that. Now, the way these screws are supposed to line up, I don't know if you can see it here. This is kind of tricky. There's a spring one spring goes there, one spring goes there in the middle one, and then finally, let's see if I can get some more light on the situation. And the third, there's a spacer where there's no indentation, and that's where the third spring goes, like so. And on top of each of these springs is balanced precariously a ball bearing. Now the trick is, and this is the part of the job that I'm most apprehensive about, is somehow installing these on the car upside down on my back without them tipping over and the ball bearings rolling away, which would be just not something I want to have happen. Lose them. And so that's the thing. This is how they go. And what I'm going to have to do under the car when I'm done with this whole thing is somehow push these three up under the car on my back without knocking them over, and we'll see how that works. Now, this is going to be kind of a dress rehearsal for that. I'm going to take this piece of wood, and we're going to do the same thing. This one's easy enough. That one goes down there. This one's not too bad. It's bad enough. See, and then the third one will go right on the end there. All right, guys, you can see. I think you can see there what I've done is I've attached my little wooden contraption here that keeps all the detent screws in place. And the only way I managed to do this was to load the screws and the ball bearings in from the bottom, instead of having them balancing on this thing and then loading them from below, which is how I thought everyone did it. And what I did was then I put this sort of copper tent plate over it and held it there while I then put the wooden thing on. And that will be the method I'll use when I attach the drain plug at the same. Okay, so if you, yes, use the clutch. Okay, put it into reverse. So notice that the fork here is grabbing only a corner of the shift arm. And when this is filled with oil, it'll slip off entirely and it won't engage reverse. Okay, go into neutral again. Put it into first. Again, notice that the shift arm is almost overshot the arm there, and you won't get first gear. Okay, go into neutral, go into second, thank you, neutral, okay, put it into third, very good, go into first, all right, neutral, go into reverse, okay. Okay, now go into fourth. Go into neutral, then into fourth. Fourth. Okay, stop. Go into neutral. Okay, so I want to adjust this so it doesn't sort of come down that far. So I'll unloosen the pinch bolt that you see there, rotate the arm a couple of degrees clockwise, and then retighten it, and that should do it. Go into first, go into second. How's that feel? Third? How's that? A little harder. Okay, go into fourth. Harder? Like third here. Okay, fifth? A little harder. Okay, go into first. How's that? Into reverse. Okay, go into neutral. Okay, so what I plan to do here is I'm going to put these springs and the detent screws and ball bearings up into these holes here. I don't know if you can see that here. There's a spring with a ball bearing on top. The ball bearing goes, my hand's obstructing it. The ball bearings go first, then the spring, and then I'm going to have the sump plate go over it. Now the problem is how to, instead of balancing these things like on a tray and kind of pushing them up, what I'm going to try to do is put them in from below, and then so they don't fall down, I will put this copper plate in like so, holding them right here, putting in the copper plate just to prevent them from going in, and then what I'll do is hold that down, and so basically I won't even have to worry about at least 2 of the 3 of these springs when I'm putting on the pan. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, the first step I'm going to do is put a little bit of grease on the tip of the spring, and then that will take one of the ball bearings so it won't fall off. Actually, I'll set both of these up like so. And then I will place them underneath. So we have that. Okay. And again, this is going to be hard to see, but I'm putting these up from below, like so. Now the first one here will also take a spacer, so this will go up like that. That also takes a spacer, like so. So I'm going to hold that down. Hold it down with one finger, and then let me find my copper plate so I have that ready to go. Okay, so see the plate, I'm still holding it down, and I have some wire, And hopefully this will work. I'll loop the wire around. And kind of a tie like that. Bearings. Now I can only go around once because what I will be doing, the plate will be on there, the pan will be on. I will be able to twist these, pull the wire out on both sides, and then pull the copper plate out while the pan is there or before the balls fall down and get lost. So that's what I'm hoping. Okay, here's the pan. I've just cleaned it. And here's my gasket. I'll go over like that, like this. So there it goes. So first I'm going to put some sealant on this edge, then I'll put the Okay guys, I managed to put on the sump plate. A little bit of drama, but basically that technique worked. Pulled out the copper plate and the balls are in the transmission and not on the floor, and that's a good thing. Now I'm just torquing up the bolts, and the torque rating is between 8 and 10 Newton meters. So I set my torque wrench to 9, and I'll go around and do kind of a crisscross pattern. Okay guys, we're all done. We got the pan all torqued down and all sealed up. The only thing remaining now is to refill with gearbox oil. And so the first thing we do is I'm going to take the drain plug. There we are. Let me just sort of, we'll torque that down. There are no torque values given in the manual, and I think I will just do that snugly, not too tight. You know, maybe I don't know. So I'll just sort of torque that. Take my hand. Okay. All right. So, and where you fill on these cars, where you fill the oil is if you go up, and let's see if I can. This bar, and there we are. There we go. There's a nice view of it. There's the drain, the fill hole, and then down, and you can see the drain plug there. So the way we do that is we fill that hole until the top, and we do that by just using one of these sort of pumping mechanisms. What I'll do is I'll put it in my quart bottle, and I'll just sort of pump it up, and I'll show you how to do that. This car actually takes a gallon plus of gear oil, so the gallon jug won't fit there. So what I'll use is this when I've emptied this, I will just refill it and keep pumping from the smaller bottle. I have a larger bottle. There's the larger bottle of the gear oil, which is Redline 75W90NS synthetic oil. Rather pricey, but a lot of guys use this in their cars, and so hopefully that's the stuff it's gonna get. Okay. Okay, guys, here's the setup here. Here's my little pump, and it is going up to the other end of the hose to the fill hole. There you get a good view of it. My hose going down here is the pump into my red line, and I'll just be all right. That gives you a good view of the overflow, and we'll just sort of watch this until it flows over. All right, guys, I filled up this bottle about 5 times, so I think that we're probably getting close to full. It takes a lot of oil to fill this thing, so we'll see. Shouldn't be much more. What the hell? I realize now why I was able to put 5 quarts of oil into the sump without it overflowing the fill hole, and it's, you know, duh, it's because the car is up in the air on jack stands. So when I lowered the car, not surprisingly, the oil does drip naturally from the drain plug or the fill plug, and I was able to recover some of my oil. Now, then I sealed that up. I closed up the fill hole. Now, what the manual says is that after you put your 4 liters into the sump, and you close up you close off your fill plug, you're supposed to add 3.8 fluid ounces here through a drain plug here on the drop gear housing, which if I can, hopefully you can see there, my finger there. It's right on the top here. You can't really see it that well, but there's a fill hole here. And there you can see me pulling off about the plug. And so you're supposed to put 3.8 fluid ounces through there just to give it a little extra. Interestingly enough, in the owner's manual, it's basically both English and Italian, right? And not surprisingly, in the Italian instructions, they give a metric measurement. But interestingly enough, it's not in milliliters. It's actually in grams. It's a measurement in weight as opposed to volume, which is kind of interesting. So instead of giving the equivalent in milliliters of 3.8 fluid ounces, they say 100 grams. So that's not really helpful. So the equivalent actually is 112 milliliters, which is what I'm. And so here we have, what I'm going to do is I still think I have more oil in the car than 4 liters. So I'm going to go a little bit under that 100. That extra 112 milliliters. I'll probably put around 80 or 90 in there. You don't want to overfill these things. I don't know if it's as crucial as with motor oil, where actually overfilling is worse than underfilling, right? Because the excess fluid will you'll get frothing, and you'll get sort of the oil will get aerated, and actually you'll have, ironically enough, you get bearing starvation when you overfill your motor oil. And it's something similar probably happens with the gearbox. And may not be quite so crucial. There's a one of the videos that I actually, it's an inspiration to me. There's a guy in Australia named Mark who has a QV, basically the same car as this, and he says to add 250 mils in here after you fill the pan with oil, and he says the car shifts a lot smoother. 250 mils is actually quite a bit more than 100. I mean, it's actually, you know, it's basically the full cup here is 250 mils. So that probably says that, you know, it's probably not an exact measurement, but I'm going to go as close to the owner's manual as I can. All right, all that's remaining to do is to attach the wheel well. What do you call this thing? So the cover for the wheel well, and then attach the wheel. All very straightforward. Here's the wheel well. Seven screws. And also you have to, I think first, let me see, I'll put this in here. First wedge this in. Let's put this up there. And yeah, I'll just screw these in first. All right, you see I got the wheel well cover in there, all 7 screws, and the little bolt for the drainage tube. And now all we have to do is put on the